Okay, I think we might be live. All right, welcome to another Sunday morning live stream. Today it's just going to be a super casual stream today. We're going to be hanging out with the Elektron model samples today. I'm going to be explaining this box and we're going to be making some beats today. If anyone can let me know if the audio is coming through okay. Can you see me? Can you see everything okay? And can you hear me okay? All right, we got Wall in the chat. Thanks for tuning in, Wall. Are we live? Can you hear me? Let's see here. See if I can't just find this stream on my YouTube channel and make sure that we are live. Cool, looks like we are live. All right, sound and vision fine. Thank you very much, Wall. All right, so we're back with the 3-camera shoot today. I'm using an iPhone 8 Plus for this cam here. The overhead cam is the Logitech Brio webcam. And then back behind me over here, I have another iPhone 8 Plus being used as a webcam. Let's go ahead and turn up this beat that I've got playing here in the model samples so we can get some volume going. Can you guys hear my voice okay when we get loud like this? Got a couple of beats in here now that I made over the last couple days getting prepared for this stream. This is one of them. Go ahead and check out the next one, which is kind of a variation on that first pattern. Hey Grant, hey Jeremy, thanks for tuning in everyone. All right. All right, thanks Jeremy, cool deal. And then there's one more pattern that I made yesterday in here as well. This one's kind of a down-tempo pattern. Music could go up a tiny bit. Thanks. Whoops. Just adjusting a couple of levels here on my mixer. How's that? It's a little bit louder on the music. Can you still hear my voice okay when it's that loud? Let's go back to that first pattern, kind of a dubby pattern. We'll get a little bit more of a level check before we get started here. When I'm talking, can you still hear that when the music is going all loud and stuff? Just want to make sure that everybody can hear okay before we get into the meat and potatoes of this today. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you're catching this on the replay, thanks for tuning in. Be sure and strike that like button so that YouTube shares the stream with as many people as possible. I really appreciate the support. All right, check out this second pattern again. All right, fantastic. Thanks, guys. So for those of you who aren't super familiar already with the Elektron model samples, we're going to be going through this today in detail, and we're going to start with a basic overview of exactly what this machine is about. Now, this is a drum machine and a sampler, meaning that we can load our own sounds into it. Hey, what's happening, Jamie? All right, we got, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, but Hervé in the chat. All right, hey, William. Hey Connor, all right, thanks for tuning in everyone. So the Elektron model samples is sort of their entry-level box to get into the Elektron workflow. It's less than half the cost of the Elektron Digitact, and it's a really great way to get in the door and start experiencing what the Elektron workflow is all about. Let's see here. What we've got is we've got a basic drum machine where we can load up 6 different sounds across these 6 different pads, right? So if I go into a different pattern, it's going to have a set of 6 different sounds loaded across those pads. And for instance, if I go into a blank pattern, it's going to load us up with some blank drum sounds. Whoops, let me get that volume back up. Sorry about that, guys. So we've got some drum pads here. I've got these set so that they're not velocity sensitive today, because when you have them set to be velocity sensitive, you really have to kind of whack on the pads like really hard to get them to be their full velocity. So to avoid just whacking on the pads, consistently through this stream, I've got all of the velocities on the pads set to maximum velocity for us today. And basically, what we're going to do today is I've got some notes as some things that I want to go through with you guys and show you about the model samples. And we're going to start off really, really simple, and we're going to make a really, really simple beat. And then as the stream progresses, we're going to do a little bit more complex programming and some more complex pattern creation. So let's see here. We're going to start by just loading some sounds. Today we're going to be working with, let's see if I can switch cameras real quick here. We're going to be working with my sample packs for the Elektron model samples. I've made 8 individual sample packs for the model samples. You can check those out over at electronisounds.com. But the beauty of the model samples is that it is a sampler, so that you can load any samples into it that you want. You don't necessarily need to be working with my sounds. They're just laid out super easy. So that's what we're going to be working with today. All right. We're going to start by loading some custom sounds to these pads and just start creating a really simple 6-part drum beat today, as simple as possible. To get to the menu where we can load new sounds, all we're going to do is press this little sample icon up here, where First off, let me explain just a little bit more about this machine. So when we load a sample to one of these pads, we then have all of these 12 knobs to control the sound on this pad. We can control the volume, we can swing that sound and move it off the actual grid. We can use a chance so that the notes we put in, for instance, don't hit every single time. And we're definitely going to get into that today as well. Each drum pad has its own filter, and this can be a low-pass filter or it can be a high-pass filter. Each pad has its own filter with its own resonance. Each pad can be sent to delay and reverb on an individual basis, so a lot or a little, medium. We can change the pitch on each sample using this pitch knob up here. We can change the length of the sample so that it doesn't play like a very long amount. We can make it a shorter sample by adjusting the decay up here. We can also adjust the sample start, where in that sample the start point is going to be, and we can also adjust the length of that sample as well. So we've got a lot of control over how we can work with the samples that we load into this box. We've got 1 LFO per track as well, so we can assign something like that to have some filter movement or maybe a little bit of movement on how the sample plays back by changing the sample start time, etc. We can reverse any of these samples and play them backwards. We can also put a little loop point in the sample, so when we play it, it'll hit a certain spot and then kind of loop around. Probably not going to be getting into that loop feature today, but we will be getting into a lot of these other features. Let's go ahead and load. Actually, let me get a sip of coffee here. I'm getting a little bit of dry mouth as we get started. We're going to go ahead and press the little sample icon up here in this pad, and then it will default you into their banks of samples so that you can just start scrolling around through their hi-hats and through their percussion and through their snare drums, the included samples. But we're going to be working with my custom content today, and how we get to that is we just need to navigate back to the root directory of the samples. So all we're going to do is just press this little back button 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and that's going to put us in the default set. We're going to be doing that a lot today, just opening up the sample browser and then hitting the back button 3 times to get into the default directory, where now we can scroll and all of the folders that we've installed samples to inside of the model samples will now show up, and we can start digging through these folders and doing a little bit of virtual crate digging. Let's see here. The first folder is my blip drums pack. We're not going to work with that just yet. I think we'll start with the bass music drums pack because that's super easy to work with. It contains 3 folders of samples. We've got a folder of hi-hats, a folder of kick drums, and a folder of snare drums. And the bonus about this particular pack of sounds is that each of these folders contains 250 sounds. So no matter what genres or styles of music you're trying to create, you're going to find the right drum sounds, in this particular pack every single time. This is the bass music drums pack, and we're just going to press the level data knob down. It's also a clickable button, and you can scroll and press it. And we can just start auditioning some of these sounds. In fact, I've got 250 kick drums in here. Why don't somebody in the chat just drop a number from 1 to 250, and we'll choose that kick drum and make a beat with it. The first number I see in the chat's the number we're going to go with. Any number from 1 to 250. Anyone? Any takers on the number challenge for the kick drum? We got 53. Thank you, Jeremy. Let's go with kick drum number 53. Sounds like this. Let's make a beat with that. So to assign this to the pad, now that we're, decided on that, we're just going to click the level data button again. Then we're going to use the back button. We're going to be using this back button here a lot to get back to the default menu where it's going to say our pattern number. And here we've got a kick drum. We can adjust the pitch of this if we want. Maybe bring that down a little bit. Or, instead of adjusting the pitch right here, I want to let you know that one of the neat features inside of the model samples here is that every single sample of these 6 sample slots, we can play melodically as well. So here, if I touch the actual buttons down at the bottom, the one in the middle, the 9, will play back whatever sample we have selected at its default pitch. Okay, but we also have, the other buttons which will scroll down through the pitches or up through the pitches as we go up from 9. Now you'll notice here that that's just one sample, but I can almost get a kick and a snare out of it by using this, function of playing different pitches on each individual sample. I'm not 100% sure if it will sequence external gear, Douglas, because I don't use it that way. It's certainly not really meant to do that. For instance, the Digitact has 8 sample tracks, and then underneath that we have 8 tracks for MIDI, whereas this box specifically is really an entry-level box, and we have just these 6 tracks only, and there are no dedicated MIDI tracks. So if we were to, use these to control external gear, it would be very, very limited, and I wouldn't really recommend that personally. Hey Kay, we got PK in the chat, we got Luke in the chat, we got Exorbinate in the chat. Hey Gaz, all right, thanks for tuning in, everyone. So this is a really neat feature that we can either adjust the pitch of the sample up here, or we can just leave it as is, and when we're programming the notes in, we can play them by hand using different pitches, or we can program them in manually using different pitches. I think what we'll do here is just tune this on the pad itself using the global pitch tune for this pad. Maybe get it just a little bit lower. I'm going to go -4 on that, and maybe bring the decay. Let's try up first. Yeah, no, down is what I want. A little tighter, I think, on this. Cool. And I think with such a neat little tight kick as this, maybe we'll start out with like a drum and bass beat today. So I'm going to use this tap BPM button, but I'm not going to tap it in. I'm just going to tap the button itself, and then we can scroll the tempo to whatever I'd like that to be. Let's go ahead and go with like a really fast drum and bass type of tempo here today. And let's go with 174 for beat 1. Now again, we're going to do things really, really simple as we get started, and we're going to move into the more complicated and complex ideas as we move into some other beats. But for the first beat today, we're going to keep things really, really simple. Now, currently, it's set to, by default, just be a 1-bar pattern. but we can quickly change that to longer than a 1-bar pattern. We can make it a 2-bar pattern, a 3-bar pattern, or a 4-bar pattern. And down here where we have these buttons at the bottom where it says 1 to 16, these are actually steps, and these are 16 steps in every bar, right? So if it's a 4 on the floor groove, you know, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, right? And then these little ones in between there are going to be 16th notes, basically. So we're dividing up a bar into 16 beats. Pretty simple, right? Let's go ahead and turn our metronome on, shall we? If we hold the function button and we click where it says click here underneath the reverse sample, we can actually get our metronome menu up, and I can just turn that on by clicking the button here. And if I play now, you can hear there's a little bit of a metronome going in the background. I can turn the volume of that metronome up or down. Yeah, the analog rhythm and the and the 4 absolutely fantastic boxes. I've been gassing quite a bit over the new analog rhythm MK2, as a matter of fact. Okay, but what we can do is we could either leave this as a 1-bar pattern. We'll see over here, it's just clicking. It's just showing us here that we're not moving into these other bars. We're just doing you can see our, playhead is triggering, is following along with our metronome. So we have a couple of options here. We can press the back button to go back to our main window. And we can play this in real time if we want to by just holding the record button and hitting the play button. And now we've gone into a quantized live recording mode. If I don't want it to record quantized, I can just hold record and hit play again, and it'll go into an unquantized live recording mode if we don't want our notes to stick to the grid, But what we can do is maybe before we actually punch in a pattern, we can go ahead and make this a 4-bar pattern. So we're going to hold function and the page button. We're going to tap that so we get into the page menu. And we're going to go ahead and hit that a few times so that all 4 lights light up. And this is showing us that now we're creating a 4-bar pattern. So if we were to hit that again, we just have 1 light here. Now we have 2, so it's a 2-bar pattern. Now we have 3, so it's a 3-bar pattern. And if we light them all up, it becomes a 4-bar pattern that we're working with. We can get out of this menu by holding function again and tapping that page button. Now, when I see, by default, it's got all of 4 lights lit up over here on the bottom right. That's showing us that we're, working with a 4-bar pattern. And when I press play, we'll see the little flashing light now is highlighting which pattern is actually playing. 2 and 3. And I said pattern. What I meant was measure. Which measure it's playing. So now I can go ahead and hit the record button and tap the play button and get us into a quantized live recording mode. And all I have to do now is just tap on the pad. Cool. Now we've got a little bit of a repeating pattern here for the kick drum. And what we can do is if we want to edit that or take a look at where those notes are falling, all we have to do is just press the record button. And now we can see these are our notes on measure 1. If I press the page button over here, I can cycle through all 4 bars of the pattern. So if I press the page button, now we can see the notes there on which steps they're on measure 2. If I press it again, we can see those, notes lighting up where I've just put them in on measure 3. And if we go to the next one, we can see those where they're lighting up on measure 4. What I think I'd like to do is make measure 1 the same as measure 2. So we're going to move that kick drum to 7 instead of 6 on bar 1 here. So 7. Cool. Cool. We're going to go ahead and turn the metronome off at this time by holding function, and we'll tap that click button. Just turn the metronome. Check my levels here. All right. Let's go ahead and find a snare drum to go with that kick drum, shall we? So to load a sample onto the pad, we just highlight the pad that we want to work with, click the little sample icon button up here, And now remember from before, we're going to back up 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and that puts us in the root directory, so we can start scrolling through whatever folders of samples we've got installed. There's a folder of factory samples, and then if you've bought, some of my sample banks or installed your own, those will be here to scroll through. Let's go ahead and, since we're making sort of a drum and bass beat now, let's go ahead and go into the drum and bass fuel folder. And this is another one of my packs for the model samples. And in here is a whole bunch of drum and bass type of sounds and basses and chops and claps and hats and all that kind of stuff. Let's see if we can't scroll through a little bit of these and find some snares to check out. Here we go. That sounds perfect. We're going to go ahead and pick that one, snare 3 from the drum and bass fuel folder. And to assign it to the pad, all we have to do is click down on the level data knob, and then we can just back out to our main menu where it shows the pattern number. And we can hear now that the snare drum has been assigned. Now, one of the really neat things about the model samples, you guys, is that it has sort of a built-in distortion, okay? By default, all of the volumes on the pads will be at 60, okay? And if we want the sound to be, lower in the mix, quieter, we can just turn those volumes right down, no problem. But as soon as we go above 60, we're actually adding a bit of drive and distortion to the sound, as well as increasing the volume. So whenever you go above 60, you start adding in that extra drive. And to compensate for that volume getting really loud, we can just turn the sound down a little bit over here on its main level. And then we can keep adding more drive and distortion to that sound if we want, right? I'm going to make sure that we bring that volume down a little bit more. And I'm going to keep going with this distortion so you guys can hear how aggressive we can make these sounds. Okay, can you hear that? That's like a whole different kettle of fish right there, right? And if we wanted to do the same thing with the kick drum and make it a lot more aggressive, we could add some distortion and drive to it as well. Turn that way back on the snare there. I just wanted to show you guys that when you go above 60, you're no longer just raising the volume, but we're also adding this wonderful sounding distortion and drive to our sounds. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get this snare in. And what we'll do this time, instead of playing it in live, I'm going to show you how to just put it in manually. We're going to start by just playing our pattern. And now, whenever you want to enter some notes, you'll need to hit the record button. Currently, we're just in the play mode. So if I tap that record button one time and make sure that whatever track I want to work with is highlighted, which it is, the snare. Now, you can see here that our pages are moving, and if I click the page button, I can select which page we're working on. So if I want to just put the snares in on bar 1, I could just tap those. We can wait till it comes around to hear those, right? I can do that page over and put those snares in on the other pages by just paging over, right? Snares a little quiet in the mix, so we'll bring it up. I like my snares to hit really loud and really hard, maybe a little bit louder than they should, if you get my drift. And that snare is a little bit dry. So as long as the snare is highlighted here, we can turn up the reverb tab, or knob rather. Start adding a little bit of reverb to that snare. We don't want to just wash it out, right? But the reverb in this box is really powerful. We can get huge with it. Just want to show you. Okay. But I just want to add a little bit of life to that snare. I don't want to drown it out in reverb. We're not making like dub techno or something. I just want to give it a little bit of air, a little bit of life. Maybe even less reverb size and maybe even less reverb send. Now, one of the neat things also that we can do is we can sculpt the tone of the reverb. So if I hold function and I move the reverb size knob, it now is shifting the reverb tone. And what does that mean exactly? I'm either, if I turn it to the right, I'm now removing the low frequency content from the reverb send. Not from the sound itself, just from the reverb send. So if I want to keep any low frequencies out of the reverb, I might turn the reverb tone to the right to about 25 or 30. You know, it's funny, the LEDs are pretty strong, but whenever you get anything on camera, when you're trying to film it, everything is very much different. They're really not offensive to work with in reality, not near as offensive as they are on the screen as the camera's picking them up. That's a great question, Jeremy. No, you can definitely, you can see, for instance, like the writing on the pads through here and all that kind of stuff. They're not near as bright as the video is making them appear. Try to bring these levels up a little bit more. Try to look at my mixer behind me here and make sure that we're loud enough for the stream. Hey, what's happening, Expectus? Thanks for tuning in. We're just having a casual hangout today with the model samples. We're starting out making some really, really simple beats. I'm just going to put one sound on each of these pads, and we're sort of making a drum and bass beat at this time. Let's go ahead and assign a custom hi-hat to this third pad, shall we? We're going to click the sample button up here in the upper right, and then we're going to remember to hit back 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now we're in the main folder of samples, so we can scroll through any folders of any samples that you may have installed. Today we're working with my model samples banks because they're well organized and ready to go for me here. And I'm just going to go back into the drum and bass fuel folder. And let's see if we can find some sort of a hi-hat. Here's some hi-hats. We're going to play the groove and just sort of tap and see what we can find here. Go over one more. All right, so we've got 10 options. That's a pretty crisp one. Let's go with that. So to assign the hi-hat to that pad, all we need to do is press down on the level data knob, and then we can just back up and get to our main menu where it shows our pattern name, and now that sound is on the pad. Remember before how I said each pad has a filter assigned to it? We could use that here and low pass this and cut off some of those high frequencies. Or if it was, had a lot of low frequencies in it, we could high pass this and get rid of some of those low frequencies. I'm going to go ahead and low pass it just a little bit, I think, and assign just a little bit of reverb to it so we can get it sort of in the same acoustic space as our snare drum. But we don't really want to hear the reverb so much. We don't really want to make a big, roomy sort of drum and bass thing. Drum and bass is kind of tight typically, but I don't want this to be super dry. So we'll give it just that tiny little bit of reverb. I'm also going to now give it a little bit of delay. Can you hear that tiny little bit of delay? Cool. Now the delay kind of helps add a little bit of extra rhythm to this sound, which is really nice. I'm going to go ahead and play this in by hand. We're just going to go ahead and hit play, right? Then I'm just going to hold the record button and tap play. It says quantized live recording. So anything I hit on the pads now will be recorded. I think that's a little too much delay. I don't want a big delay. And I also want to maybe take the feedback of that delay and bring it down just a little tiny bit so it's not extending out quite so long. For drum and bass, we want to keep the groove pretty tight, So over here, we can adjust the size of our reverb and then the tone of the reverb. Beneath that, we can adjust the delay time itself. And then underneath that is the delay feedback amount. So if I hold function, I can get to that second option and scroll down just a little bit on the feedback amount of the delay so that it's not going to roll over itself quite as much now. That's a pretty amazing price, Jamie. If it was me and I was looking to get into a sample box, I might try to squeeze in on the auction like that. That sounds like a pretty good price. Yeah, I've already got the pads and the screen as low as they will go in the settings. In the settings, I'm just going to show that real quick here because you are absolutely right, PK. If I go into the settings here and I go to the LCD, I've got that set to low, and we can actually go in here and we can make this a lot brighter, as you can see there. So it's currently set to low just so that the camera can kind of register it. And then if we, let's see here. We go to the next one, mid. Oh, fantastic. Check that out. Do you see this, you guys? Thank you, PK. That's awesome. So I can go to a lower setting on the pads and make it look a lot better. All right. All right, PK in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, that is so much better. Oh, my goodness. Fantastic. It's a little dim now for me, but that's okay. No worries. So again, we're starting out with a really simple beat today. So all we've got here is just a hat, a kick, and that snare, right? Let's go ahead and if I select, if I want to affect any of these pads with any of the 12 knobs here, all I have to do is select that pad and then I'm just good to go. I'm only affecting the pad that's highlighted with these knobs here. So if I want to take the sharpness off of that kick drum, I can kind of low pass filter it. You hear I can kind of make it really subtle and tame kind of down there. But I just want to take a little bit off of the top here. Yeah, oh, better. Cool. Let's go ahead and get like an open hi-hat or like a shaker or something in on pad number 4. I want to go slow so that the people who aren't familiar with this box can maybe get a little bit of, learning here. But I also wanted to show you guys some neat stuff. So let me know if I'm going too slow or too fast today, okay? Let's go ahead and load a sound here. I know there's an open hi-hat here already, but let's go ahead and dig into my packs, shall we? I'm going to go ahead and click that sample button, and we're going to click the back button 3 times to get into our main directory of samples. And I think what we'll do here is just go back into the, actually, maybe we'll go into my triple digit drums pack. This is all sounds from the 606, 727, 808, 909 packs. And what I'm looking for here is maybe like an open hi-hat. Some 808 hats here. Yeah, I'm going to grab that one. So we're just going to tap, make sure, I'm on the pad that I want to be on, which is how we got into this menu in the first place. I'm going to go ahead and click the level data knob so that I assign that sample to this pad. That's pretty loud right now, so we're going to go ahead and bring the volume down on the open hat quite a bit, I think. Yeah, cool. Actually, let's see here. What did I load here? That's hat number 13. That might be cool if we got that onto the. I know I said I was going to start simple, but this is kind of like a really great opportunity to show this. I think is if we put this open hi-hat on the same track as the closed hi-hat. Each of these tracks is a mono track, meaning the samples won't play over each other and hold their tail, if that makes any sense. If you have a long sample on a pad and you press it multiple times, it's going to restart that sample from the beginning each time and stop the currently playing sample. So if I put this open hi-hat on the same track as this closed hi-hat, they will choke each other, per se. So how we can do that is we can get out of the sample menu here, and we can just select the track that we want to work with. I just want to remember what number this hi-hat is. It's 808 hi-hat 13. I think I have a pen here. I'm just going to write that down. 808 13. And what we're going to do now is what they call sample locking. And this is a feature of parameter locking, which is one of the main and coolest features of working with Elektron gear. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and tap the hi-hat track that we want to work with, which is our closed hi-hat currently. We're going to add this open hi-hat to that same track by just going into where the notes are displayed here. And actually, that's a little bit too dim. I just can't see that. So we're going to... Oh, it's better for me. Sorry, guys. I just can't see those notes when it's so dim over here. And we're going to now put in some more notes, but we're going to tell those new notes to play the open hi-hat sample and not play the closed hi-hat sample. Let's start, and if I'm in record mode, I can select which measure we're on by using this page button here. So if the light is lighting up on the first window there, that's bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, and bar 4. So if I want to put like an open hat in on bar 2, I'll make sure that bar 2 is selected. We can even press play and hear our pattern while I'm working, right? Turn this volume down a bit so I'm not just yelling over it. And maybe what we'll do is put a new sound here on the 14. But what I'm going to do now is I want to just affect that sample. I don't want to affect anything else on this track, but just this one step. This is called parameter locking, and I'm going to make sure that I continue holding down this one step. And now anything I do, I can change the sample length, the sample start, the volume, the cutoff, the filter. I can send this one step to more reverb. Anything I do with these knobs is going to stick to just this one step, including changing the sample that's playing on that step. So if I'm still holding it, if I hit the sample button, okay, to go into our sample browser, for some reason it's put us into the main folder. I'm going to change hands here. I'm going to go ahead and go down to the triple digit drums folder. I'm going to click the level data knob to get in there. And we're going to roll over to 808 hi-hat 13, which is the hi-hat that I said I liked the sound of. And I'm going to go ahead and put that on just this one step here. And I'm going to click the level data button, and that's going to highlight the sample pad here, which is now showing me that I have a separate sample locked to that one step. Now I'm going to shut up for a minute so you can hear this. You hear how there's a different hi-hat sound on that one step? It's a little bit louder than I would like it to be, so I'm going to hold that one step, and now I'm going to go up here, actually down here. First of all, we're going to back out so we're in our main pattern window. I'm going to touch the pad that I want to affect, which is our new open hi-hat, and I'm just going to roll the volume down a little bit. By default, the volume was 60. I'll bring it down to like 42, right? Get it way back in the mix, maybe 45. And now, when I hold this pad down, we see that the volume button and the sample button are lit up, meaning I have special things assigned to that one step only. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, please let me know and I'll try to explain it better. But let's say that every time, we're here on bar 2 with that open hat, let's say every time the pattern plays, we don't want to hear that hat every single time. Maybe just sometimes when the pattern plays, we want to hear that new hat. This is where the chance feature comes in. And we can adjust just this one step where that open hat is. We'll just press that down, and now we can roll this chance button. And if I roll this a little bit, we start getting into a percent number up here in the left. And I can maybe set that to 50%. And now when the pattern plays, and when it hits this step, it's going to randomly decide. 50% of the time, it's going to play that open hi-hat sound. But the other 50% of the time, it's not going to play that hi-hat sound. Maybe we'll turn that chance down a little bit lower than 50%, so it's a little bit less likely to play. We'll choose 41%. And let's say that I want to take that same open hi-hat and put it right here on this 16th step of this measure as well. But same as this one, we don't want it to play all the time, just sometimes. So if I hold down the step and hit this copy button here, and then I hold down another step that I want to put that on and hit paste, I've now copied and pasted that step into the next step. It's a little bit long when it hits though, because there's no hi-hat sample on the next page to turn it off. I hope that makes sense. So if I go back here, I can hold this step and just turn the decay on that sound down like a lot. There we go. So that it doesn't ring out over the next bar when it plays. And I can even hold that step down and copy it. Go to bar 4 and paste those in bar 4 as well. Hey, what's happening, Sean? I got something to show you, my friend. Just wanted to show you that I'm sporting the Mazatron shirt today, my friend. Aw, yeah. All right, cool deal. So here we have a little bit of a drum and bass beat. We've now got that open hi-hat that triggers every now and again, but not every time through. And this kind of gives us a little bit of variation by default into our pattern. So it kind of is moving and a little bit more alive than if we had no percentage of chance on any of these beats. Speaking of chance, let's go ahead and mix up this snare drum and put a little something special on that there, shall we? If I want to adjust the snare, I just make sure that that pad is highlighted. And if I press the record button, now I can see what steps are highlighted on each measure. So if I want to make like a variation on that snare drum on, say, the 4th bar, I just make sure that the snare is highlighted, that we're in record mode, and then I just make sure whatever bar I want to work with is lit up here. So bar 4. And let's say we want to put like an extra snare drum hit in on this note right here. Let's go ahead and play this so we can hear this note start coming in on bar 4. Actually, I am going to pause for just 1 second the stream because I do want to address that, my friend. My friend Wall, it actually has the golden shower on the back. Come on, get out of town. Thank you so much for the shirt, Sean. I absolutely love this shirt. You guys know that the golden shower is my favorite sequencer for Eurorack, so this is super awesome. Come on, what's up? All right, let's go back to the pattern here. Okay, so we can hear this new snare drum coming in on bar 4. If I go ahead and just play this, we'll just wait for bar 4 comes through. Cool. Let's say we want to do a little bit more variation on that new snare so that when it hits, it's not quite the same as every other snare, right? We're going to go ahead and hold that note down. And remember now, any of the changes I make to any of these knobs will be just on this one note. One step, rather. So let's make the pitch a little bit higher. Why don't I raise this to 3? We'll pitch it up 3, right? Let's go ahead and make it so when this hits, it sends more of that snare to the delay. I'll turn that up to, say, 25. Cool. Let's make that snare a little bit shorter by turning the decay down to maybe about 40. So it's a really tight snare. Ooh, that's very nice. And let's also... let's make it so it doesn't hit every time as well. Let's start rolling this chance knob up, and let's choose a percentage. Why don't I go with 41%? So maybe every time it's going to trigger this note, it's going to think about that, and we've got a 41% chance that that note is actually going to trigger. And let's say I want to take that same kind of a note and move it, you know, copy some more action to the end of the bar. If I just hold that and hit copy, now I've copied that one trigger. And go ahead and maybe paste that in before our snare here. And maybe on the last note here. Cool. And so if I want to adjust those notes now, all I have to do is just hold them. And any of the things that I've got locked into that note specifically, that step, you know, will light up. So I can adjust these again. Maybe make the chance less likely that that note's going to play. Maybe we can take the pitch on this one and go up a little bit more so it's different than that last custom note we put in. Put this on like a 7. And maybe we'll do the same thing for our last note here. We'll hold that down, change the pitch. Actually, I think I messed that up, so we'll copy, paste that in. Yeah, cool. I'll make this one maybe like +10, so it's a really pitched up snare. Yeah, cool. Bring the volume up on that a little bit as well. Yeah. All right. Okay. So currently, we're only working with 3 tracks so far. Remember, we loaded this open hi-hat sound to track 4, but then I went ahead and put that in on the track 3 instead. So what we can do now is we can scroll for another sample to load onto track 4, which I think might be a fun thing to do. We can go ahead and, make sure track 4 is highlighted, and it is. We can hit the search for a sample button, and I can just kind of start scrolling around here. If we go back to the root directory, I can choose a different folder. Maybe we'll choose like this blip drums folder this time. These are some pretty interesting and unique sounds. I'm not really looking for anything in particular. Maybe we'll see if we can find like a noise or a percussion sound that kind of fits with the beat here. I like that one. So we're going to go ahead and assign that to the pad by just clicking down on the level data button. Now we can just pop back out with the back button to our, default view. Cool. Now we have options of, putting this in manually by just selecting which steps on which bars we want to use. If we want to do that, we just make sure that the sound is selected, hit the record button, and now whatever bar I want to work with, I can just put some notes in. There's bar 1, there's bar 2, there's bar 3, there's bar 4, right there. I put in a pattern. Obviously, it's not, the best pattern in the world, and let's say that we're not happy with that, right? But that's how you would go ahead and put those notes in. If we want to get rid of that, it's super easy. We just go back into the record mode, and you'll see that under the play button, there's a second control written in here, which says clear. So if I hold the function to access those second controls, I can just clear out those notes. And if we play it again, that's all gone now. But remember, each pad we can play melodically as well. I really, really love this box, you guys. This is a $300. It's their entry-level box, and it absolutely gets you into the Elektron workflow of doing parameter locking, of doing, probability, of doing sample locking, and it really sounds like a really good box. And when I'm working with it, it feels like I'm working with a piece of gear and not a toy, and that's a really important distinction. A lot of the entry-level price stuff, when you're working with it, might not be built, with the highest level components. This is entry-level stuff. But this box, I really enjoy working with it, and it feels very, very solid when I'm working with it. Like a tool, not a toy. I can't stress that enough. So what we can do is if we want to play this pad melodically, we can do that right here, right? So if I press play, maybe we can... Now we have kind of a melodic element to that percussion. And let's go ahead and record that in. I'm going to hold record, tap the play button, and we're in a quantized recording mode, and that's what I want. Cool. Let's go ahead and assign some reverb to that sound by just turning up the reverb on it. We could max that out and get nuts, right? But we just want to add a little bit of life to that sound, I think, to get it sort of in the same acoustic space as some of our other sounds. Maybe about 30. Let's go ahead and send that to the delay a little bit as well. Let's crank it so we can hear what that sounds like, Yes, each pad can have a different length pattern as well, so you can get those polyrhythms happening. Absolutely. Thanks for noting that, PK. Absolutely, yes. Just taming the delay on that new sound. We just want a little bit. That's still probably too much. Alright, cool. Sorry about that. I've had the volume down this whole time, guys. Bet that sounds a little bit cleaner. Sorry about that. Maybe a little bit more reverb on that sound. And I think it might be cool if we were to put like a clap on every other snare. So we sort of get a call and a response happening. Let's go ahead and assign a clap to this pad here, shall we? We're going to just hit the sample button. We're going to back out 3 times to be in the factory, in the main root directory, rather. And let's see, I've got some claps in the drum and bass fuel folder. So let's go ahead and go into that folder and scroll over to find some claps. There's one. Ooh, that's nice. So we're going to load that clap by just pressing down on the level data button. And now that clap is assigned to this pad here. We can change the pitch on this as we want, you know. You got 2 octaves down from your root pitch and 2 octaves up from your root pitch. So you can really do quite a bit of, reshaping on a sound, especially if you're doing like an octave up or an octave down. But one of the neat things about being able to pitch any sample is we can kind of find which pitch really goes with our track. Let's just play the groove here. Ooh, I think it's that one. Yeah, it's definitely pitched up 1 there. It sounds really nice. So we're going to go ahead and just play the pattern. I'll get us into the quantized recording mode, and I'll just tap in this clap. I'm going to tap it in on every other snare drum, so we sort of get a call and a response happening with the pattern. Let's do that. 3, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. Cool. Let's get some reverb on that clap. Yeah. Not too much, just enough to kind of get it in that same acoustic space as our other sounds. So if I want to maybe do a little bit of separation between this clap and our main snare so that they're not just 100%, locked together, what I can do is I can use the panning feature inside of the model samples here. I can make sure the pad I want is selected, so that's the snare. And in our main window here, if I hold the function button and roll this knob, see, these knobs do, the buttons, the pads, will typically do like 2 different things, and some of the knobs do as well. This knob here is like our main volume knob, and it's also, we click down on it to select things, but underneath it, it's also got our panning control. So if I'm selected the sound I want, and I hold function, I can roll this maybe like 2 to the left, and I can do that same with our clap sound. Hold function and maybe roll it 2 to the right, and just ever so slightly spread those sounds out. You know what I mean? Right at the beginning, they were right at 12 o'clock, but now we've just opened them that tiny little bit to give them just the tiniest little bit of their own space in the mix. Oh yeah, I hear that wall. You can get some wonderful sounds with that down pitching of crashes. Absolutely. How's that sounding at home? Are we still doing okay on the level? As we start building something new. We've got one more pad here. Let's go ahead and add another sound, shall we? Let's put like a ride cymbal. So this first beat is a really simple beat. It's just drums. We've got a little bit of melodic percussion to help, flesh it out a little bit. But it's just drum sounds. Just a really simple beat that we're putting together. So we'll select the pad we want to work with. I'm going to go ahead and hit that sample button. And we're going to back out 3 times to get to our root directory, where now we can scroll through any of the folders of samples that you've got loaded. We're using my samples today. I've got 8 sample packs, sound banks rather, for the model samples, and those are available at electronisounds.com. I think the total on those banks is quite pricey, but I made like a bundle pack, which you save a ridiculous amount of money, because I really want as many people to have these sounds as possible. So that bundle really saves you a lot of money. Let's see here. If I just scroll through all of these sounds, again, this is 707, 606, 909, 808 sounds. I have some 909 rides in this folder, some different variations of that. So I'll play the beat, and we'll just see if any of these rides sounds good over it. I think we're going to go with ride 3. So to assign that to the pad, I just press down on the level data knob, and we just back out to our main menu. That's way too loud, so we can just bring our level on that down. I can also pan that by holding function and scrolling that just a little bit to the right. Cool, now we're panning that just a tiny bit. I can also take any low frequency content that maybe our ears can't hear, but maybe just hidden in the sound, and I can put a high pass filter on it. Cool. Maybe make this sound quite a bit lower still and do like a double time ride pattern. Yeah, that's nice. So what we'll do is just hit record and then play to get us into a quantized live recording mode. 4, 2, 3, and... And then we have a little bit of a ride pattern. Maybe bring that ride down in the mix still. Maybe mess with the pitch of it and see if we can seat it in our groove at all. Kind of like that. I like the ride to be kind of subtle and in the background, so I'm just sort of taming the volume on that a little bit, and we're pulling it down. Cool. We can do muting of the tracks in real time by just holding function and touching a pad. So this is really handy for live jamming. You can just drop any, sound at any time. Cool. All right, so we've built kind of a little drum and bass beat here to start us off with. Let's go ahead and name this real quick, shall we? If we hit the wrench icon, we scroll over to where it says pattern, and we can hit the level data button, and we can hit the level data button again to rename. Now it gets us into the name menu, and all we have to do is hold the function key, and then we can roll this to capital letters or to lowercase letters. I'm just going to make this a really easy name for the live stream. So we're just going to call this DNB01 or something. DNB. Scroll that down to the next row. Hold the function button. And we'll go O and 1. Whoop. 01. Cool. But there's a couple of other letters there from where it said no name or something. So I'm going to get rid of those. I'll hold function, and now I'll just select a blank space here to get rid of those extra letters. Fantastic. And now we've got our pattern named drum and bass 01. And if I scroll over one more, it'll say project. If I click that, and now I've got a name on this particular project. I just called it Dubby because I was making some Dubby patterns. I can go ahead and click that again, scroll over, and save this. We could rename it if we wanted to, but I don't need to. And we'll go ahead and just save that. So now our entire project is saved. For those of you who are just tuning in, I started out with some patterns that I made a few days ago. I'm going to check those out real quick here. So this one's more of a, I love that dub sound, that dub techno sound. This one's got, drums and chords and whatnot as well. Yeah, unfortunately with OM only sends MIDI clock. It does not receive MIDI clock. And you can send MIDI clock out of OM through the USB connection on your iPad. But I have a video let's see if I can get the, here we go. I have a video where I'm using 5-pin MIDI with the iPad. And all you need to do is have something, there's like IK Multimedia makes a device called the iRig MIDI 2, and it's like a USB connection. You can plug that into wherever your USB hub for your iPad, and then you can get 5-pin MIDI out from and into the iPad. I have a video on that. It's like how to use 5-pin MIDI with iPads. Or you can, use, if you don't want to use 5-pin MIDI, you can absolutely just go USB out from whatever hub, powered USB hub is plugged into your iPad, and then you can plug that into the MIDI in on the USB in, on the back of this, and you can talk to this via MIDI as well. But the OM in that case has to be the master clock because it only sends MIDI clock; it doesn't receive it. Let's see here. Cool. Okay, so yeah, some of the patterns that we started with earlier that I made a couple days ago. This one here. Do you guys hear just the crisp and richness of the sound quality? I I want to go over that these are definitely mono samples that this box loads. The format that it works with for its internal samples is 16-bit mono samples. So you can't load stereo samples into it, just mono. But listen to that sound quality. That is rich, very, very nice quality. Again, this feels much more like a tool than a toy. Here's another pattern that I made. I think this one was like last night, maybe. Yeah. And then today we've made this drum and bass beat. This is just a drum beat. We didn't do any of the melodic content, but we assigned sounds to all of the 6 pads. So let's go ahead and do something a little bit more fun and complicated now, shall we? Boy, we've been going for an hour. It looks like I'm probably not going to get through all of the fun stuff that I have to get through today. Otherwise, we're going to be here for like 3 to 4 hours, because that was pretty much just the very first thing. Just, you know, make a beat with 6 parts. I want to stress that this is a drum machine, but it's also a sampler. So how you use this can really be kind of an unlimited way that you can use this. It doesn't sample into itself, like you need a digitact if you want to sample in, but you just load the samples that you want to work with into it, and then you're good to go. My sample packs specifically are all made to take up as little space inside of your model samples as possible, because there is, you know, a limited amount of room inside of these. So like my 8 packs, I think only take up less than 200 megs, which is 1/5 of the entire content available for samples inside of the box. I really worked hard to keep the editing on those with like no extra space and stuff like that, so that everything would be as little room inside of your model samples as possible. Again, we're just working with my sound banks today, because those are the samples that I have inside of here, and they're laid out easy to work with. Let's go ahead and go over to pattern 5, and let's create something else today. Maybe let's go to like 118 beats per minute, and let's, I'm going to load, like I'm real big on chord samples. I like to make like aggressive and hard-hitting beats, put that snare up maybe a decibel too loud so it really smacks, you know, get a deep, low type of bass in the mix, and then get some sort of like chilled, funky, you know, chord like movement sort of happening on the top of that. That's kind of like my bag. And the model samples really excels at something like this, like taking, you know, one chord sample and making it into an actual like rhythmic melodic pattern than just a one shot. And that's what we're going to try to work on next, you guys. All right. Yes, the transfer app does convert the files to the mono format, but there's a thing. If you've ever worked with stereo files, or you've ever worked with mono files, like if you're familiar with the difference, you know, the stereo file is going to have a left channel and a right channel. When I prepare my samples for the model samples, or for any box rather, that's using mono samples, I use a software called SoundForge. This is my daily audio editing program as a sound designer, and I'm able to do a conversion that takes the levels from both channel and mixes them together into one channel, so that when you're doing that, you don't lose any bit of that sonic information from the sample. It just puts them together in that one track. Now, I know a lot of things, when they import samples, they just will choose the left channel or the right channel, and they don't have a way that takes about 50% volume from both channels and squeezes that into one new sample. So sometimes when you're just importing things through like the transfer app or something like that, they might not sound as good as you're expecting, or it just depends on how that specific box deals with the conversion. All the boxes that I have, for instance, that load mono samples, will convert as you're loading them, but I don't specifically know how they do that. If they're, taking both channels and combining them so you don't lose any sonic information in that sample, or I know some of them just take like the left sample, so any information that might have been on that right hand side, that right channel, is just gone. And that makes a big difference. I know a lot of people think there's not much difference between stereo samples and mono samples, but there is. There's literally night and day, 50%, more information in, or maybe it's 100% more information in a stereo sample than in a mono sample. So these boxes are limited in that way, in that it's mono only. But the sound quality, is really fantastic here. Okay, so what let's do is let's go ahead. We're at a brand new pattern here, and I'm going to go ahead and load. We're going to find a nice sounding chord sample. I've got a whole folder full of chord samples that come with my packs here, and we're going to go ahead and click the load sample button. We're going to back up 3 spaces to get to the root directory, and then we can just scroll through whatever samples we've got installed here. I've got a pack called Chords. Ooh, that's really nice. That's really nice. What I'm looking for is sort of a chord hit that has some movement and some modulation in the sound. And you'll hear why in just a moment. Let's go with that. That's the opposite of what I would usually do. This is a B major 7 chord. Let's grab that, right? When I'm making sample packs, I do a lot more than just, when I'm making music for myself. So nothing's just restricted to F minor per se. I know a lot of you know that I like to write in F minor. But yeah, there's everything in here, not just F minor stuff. So we'll grab this chord. We're going to click the level data knob to assign that to this pad here. And what we'll do is I think we're going to make this a 4. Actually, we'll stick with a 1. Just a really simple pattern off the jump, and we'll make it something special. So let's see here. Why don't I just put in some notes? Yeah, bum 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 bum. See if we can't mess with the start point of that sample. I like that. Let's move the cutoff up on this a little bit by default as well, so that we're taking out some of the low frequency content from this sound. I'm going to make it pretty rhythmic, so it might be nice if we didn't have a whole lot of low frequency content happening here. Let's go ahead and turn up the reverb on this. We're going to make kind of a chilled out dubby thing, like, the stuff I like to do, right? I'm going to go ahead and take the tone of this reverb. We're going to pull out some of the low frequency content from that reverb so that the reverb is really clean and not muddy. Just kind of finding the point where I want to start with this sample here. It's a little bit quiet as we get started, but bear with me here. Here's what we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a 4-bar pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and just, let's see, actually all we have to do is go function and page, and then we just hit the page button until it lights up all 4 patterns. If we already have something, playing on bar 1, it's going to copy that to the additional 3 patterns. And then we'll just hit function and page to get out of there. Now we can just watch the cursor on the right-hand side showing us which measure we're working with. And 2, and 3, and 4. Okay, so if I want to see those steps, I just hit the record button and I can see those now. Again, sorry everyone that it's so bright. I had a really difficult time seeing these little ones when I tamed it one more level there. But let's put a variation on bar 4, shall we? Maybe we'll put another note right there. Maybe here instead. And bear with me, I know this gets a little boring, but just wait just a few minutes and you'll hear what I'm creating here and why we want to take this long on something like this. Maybe we'll bring the decay on that note down there that I just putting in so it's a little tighter. Yeah. And let's bring the cutoff on that step up just a little bit. Yeah, and the resonance as well, and the volume. Now, everything I'm doing is just affecting this one step. If I let go, see how the lights turn off? And when I touch this step, those lights light up again, showing me that I'm affecting something on that step. Yeah. And when you get it to where you want it, I'm just trying to get it where I want it here. Maybe we'll put some delay on just that. Yeah, nice. Now remember, I've created this sound using the exact same sample that's already playing, and that sounds quite a bit different, right? So you could hear how you can take one sample but make kind of a different sounding pattern, right? Okay, cool. I'm gonna copy just that step now. Yeah, cool. We're going to actually make it a little bit lower in the mix first. I'm going to make it like 93, I think, instead of 100, and we'll copy it. I want to put it on bar 2 and bar 4, that extra note. Yeah, exactly. And now let's put one more variation in on bar 4 before we start adding some drums and stuff to this. Let's see here. Maybe on the upbeat here we can put something, and maybe we can pitch this down too. Yeah, and maybe bring the decay on that so it's a little bit tighter and doesn't just bleed over the loop around. Yeah, maybe we'll filter that up a bit and add some more resonance to just that one step. Maybe not so much of the filter cutoff. Yeah, getting there. You just let it play through and adjust as needed. Volume on that last one, I think, and we'll be good to go. All right. Now, if I copy that note and I put that on the end of bar 2, and we maybe hold it, and maybe we make a variation to that. Let's go pitch up. Let's go like up 5 on that one and see what that sounds like. Yeah, that's really nice. Let's bring the decay down. Do you guys hear how we're kind of making a complete melodic, groove out of just one sample by locking different pitches and, settings to the different steps? If I go back to page 1, make sure page 1 is selected, I can make some variations on the main chord itself so it's not quite so, static sounding. Let's maybe take that second note and adjust the sample start in on that and make it a different sample start. Hear what this sounds like. Yeah, maybe we'll go quite a bit in then instead. Bring that decay down as well. I'm just trying to make something a little bit different. Maybe less of that sample start, maybe 15. Let's try that. I think that might be getting us pretty close. Yeah, here that's different. And now if we go and we can paste that same note in on bar 3. So now we're getting a lot less of a static pattern and something that's actually kind of groovy, right? Now we have options as to, what we want to do here. We could approach this as like a dub techno type of groove and put inside like a 4 on the floor type of sample if we want. I'm going to go ahead and just select track 1, hit the sample button. We're going to hit back 3 times to get into our root directory. And maybe we'll go into Dirty Tech Drums pack. And I've got some kick drums in here that are literally just massive. And let's see if any of these sounds cool. I really like the way that is sounding, so we're going to grab that kick there. We're just going to hit the level data button to assign it to this pad and back out to our main menu. We can make sure this pad is selected, and as long as the record button is in, we can go ahead and just pop in a 4 on the floor pattern by just putting the notes where we want them to be. Boom. We can maybe low pass filter that kick drum to get some of the high frequency content off of the very top end of it. We could really subdue it a lot if we wanted to. Get really down there in some underground dub techno vibe, But we're gonna let that crusty bit at the top kind of just peek through a little bit. That sounds pretty cool. We're gonna need some high frequency content in this groove though. So maybe we'll want to assign like a open hi-hat or some sort of a hi-hat sound to pad 3. I'm going to go ahead and just highlight that pad, hit the sample button. We're going to go ahead and hit back 3 times to get to the root directory. And let's see here, where would I want to go for this? This is kind of a funky groove, so maybe we'll go into the blip drums folder and see if anything sort of stands out to us here. Kind of like that sound, so we'll grab it by just hitting down on the level data, backing out. I'm going to go ahead and just, let's see, hold record and hit play to get into quantized live recording mode, and then I can just play this in. Cool. We can maybe assign a little bit of reverb to that new sound. There we go. Maybe a little delay to that new sound. Maybe make that delay feedback a little bit less still. All right, that sounds fantastic. Let's go ahead and get like, I like to really flesh these out with like a ride cymbal. So if I tap pad 4 here and tap the load sample button, we can go ahead and hit back 3 times to get us into our main directory. And we can look for like another ride cymbal. I've got some ride cymbals in the drum and bass fuel folder, so I'll just go in there and we'll scroll to get to some. Here we go. I like ride 2 and ride 3. So let's go ahead and load ride 2 to the pad by just hitting the level data button. Bring this down in the mix a little bit, and maybe we'll pan this sound a little tiny bit to the left. We'll hold function and just scroll a couple of clicks to the left. Oh yeah, maybe a little bit of reverb on this. A little bit of delay. Oh, come on. That is sounding really nice. Yeah, that's nice, right, Doug? This is all right. You never know when these live streams how it's going to go, because I'm always trying to go, pretty quickly so we don't spend too much time. So we have one pad available still to load another sound on. An option might be to load like a bass type of sound here to get a little bit of low frequency content. Or maybe just another percussion sound. I'm going to go ahead and see what we can find. We'll hit that sample button. We're going to back out 3 clicks to our main directory of sample folders here. Let's go go back into the drum and bass folder, shall we? I don't really know. Oh, right, that other ride sound, maybe. Oh, yeah, forget about it. So I'm going to go ahead and load that. I'm going to bring that down in the volume there. And also, we panned our first ride a little bit left. Let's hold function and pan this ride a little bit to the right. Cool, a little bit of a pattern there. Maybe we can roll the filter up on that ride in case there's any low frequencies hiding out that we can't hear. Now they're completely gone if they were there, you know. Give this a little bit of delay and reverb to get it into the same acoustic space as our other sounds. A little too loud in the mix, so we'll bring it down. Alright. That's not bad, right? Yeah, get the bass on. I know, right? That would have been nice. We're out of tracks is the thing. Or wait. We're not out of tracks. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and give this a name, shall we? Let's go ahead and go into pattern, click the button, and it says rename. We'll click the button, and here we can get into the name menu. And we can just hold function, and then we just scroll. So I'm going to just give this some sort of a name. Let's choose some silly looking U there. Just call this dub or something. There we go. Let's get an extra B at the end of there. And okay, fantastic. All we have to do now is delete those 4 letters under the bottom. So if I just scroll around and pick a blank, just want to show you guys as many of the details of this box as possible. I find it a really, really fun box to work with. Once you sort of get used to those first basic concepts of loading a sample and you know, how to get in and out of the record mode, whether you want to play things in live or whether you want to, you know, use the, like for instance, this chord here, right? If we press, you know, that pad to select it, we hit 9. Now we're triggering the chord back, but any sample can be played back melodically. I really want you to remember that. This is one of the reasons why I really like to use chord samples inside of a box like this. It sounds a lot like that sort of 90s jungle and house sound, because this is how we worked in the 90s with samples and just repitching stuff. And that's, you know, sort of the workflow that I come from, so I really like doing this. What did I do? I didn't save the name. For some reason I didn't save the name. We'll just let that go. But I do want to save the project at this time. So if I select project and I click down on our project, we can scroll over to save. We can save this project so we don't lose anything if anything were to go wrong. Okay, so we created a really basic beat today. We loaded up, let's see here, on the pattern that we started with. It's kind of a drum and bass beat, right? Does this device make me want to get back in Octatrack? As a matter of fact, Mike, I didn't gel with the Octatrack is the thing. I started out with my first Elektron box was a Digitact, and I fell in love with the Digitact. The Digitact is actually my favorite piece of gear to use in here, and I actually have 2 of them. I thought that it would be a nice upgrade to check out the Octatrack after falling in love with the Digitact, especially since the Octatrack can load stereo samples, but I just didn't gel with its workflow at all. I did 1 jam with it, and I actually sold the Octatrack pretty soon after that, towards the purchase of getting the Akai Force. This was a couple years ago. But yeah, I'm not really a person who sells gear. If I don't gel with stuff, I kind of just, you know, work at it. But the Octatrack and me were just like oil and vinegar. We just didn't mix it. It just wasn't, it just didn't do it for me. It's too complicated is what I'm trying to say. It was too complicated. Specifically, like when you're working with the model samples and with the Digitact, as you change patterns, it's really easy to keep those same sounds or load new sounds. But with the Octatrack, you have to like use 4 banks of sounds, and it's not super easy to just make a new pattern and have some new sounds. You have to copy all the sounds into the bank, hope you don't change any levels ever in the it was I didn't quite um let's see here. What do I want to show you guys as well though before I want to make sure that I show you guys some more of the really neat things that we can do here. What are the monitors to the right? Do you mean these here? These are this is my second station. This is my PC. I'm actually a PC guy from back in the day, but mainly the MIDI timing in Ableton on my PC was so bad, like I just couldn't. It wasn't usable, and I upgraded to a Mac last year, and I'm really happy with that. So the Mac in front of me is my main music computer now, and I'm still using my old monitor speakers from the 90s here. They're really shitty, but I know them like the back of my hand. I know like that shitty sound that the music should have off of these. These are Behringer Truth monitors, some of the only Behringer gear that I have in here. But based on that, I know them so well and like what things should sound like on them. I've just stuck with them for a very long time. These are focal shape 6s, and they're very nice. They have I'm trying to remember what, like, they don't have a port, but they have this thing on the side that vibrates right here, and it's very interesting. They're a lot more expensive than the Behringers, and I was hoping to make those my main speakers, actually, these Focal Shape 6s. But the sound, I don't know if you've ever, worked on a pair of monitor speakers for like literally years and years and years, and your ears are so familiar with what music sounds like on them, and when you mix on them that it sounds good on other speakers systems, and then you try to change that. Sometimes it can be very difficult, and that was the case for me here. In fact, the Behringers have an 8-inch woofer, when the Shape 6 is obviously a 6-inch woofer, and it sort of directs the sound a little bit differently in here. I really love those speakers, and they're very accurate. And it's also really beneficial to just have 2 different sets of speakers in here that I can test everything out on and make sure that it sounds good on both. But yeah, Focal Shape 6s are those over there with the PC setup. And yeah, the Yamaha HS8s are really popular. People say they're amazingly flat response. 2 of my producer friends swear by those, and their music sounds great. So I would absolutely say those Yamaha what was that number again? The HS8S, that those could be a really, in fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they make those in white. And it might be a neat contrast to try to upgrade, because I believe you can get that in an 8-inch woofer as well. So they might be really comparable. I've looked at those, is what I'm saying, those Yamaha speakers, to maybe replace these Behringers someday. It needs to happen, but it is what it is. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to do one more thing for sure. I've been an hour and a half already. Okay, and I haven't been keeping up with the chat, so sorry about that today. But what I want to do is I want to show you guys how we can do some neat melodic content in this as well. Now this is it's a sampler. It's basically a glorified drum machine. If you use it in your setup as a drum machine, it's fantastic, very robust in all those different ways that we can lock sounds and samples to different notes and stuff like that. You can do a lot of stuff with these. But if you want to get some melodic content happening, here's a really neat way that we can do that. The first thing we'll do is just pick a sound to work with. So I'm going to go select the pad I want to work with. I'm going to hit the load sample button. I'm going to hit the back button 3 times to get us into the root directory of our samples. And then I have a pack in here called Melodics. It's one of the 8 sound banks that I've made for the model samples, and it has 50 bass 1-shots all tuned to C, so they're super easy to work with, and it has 50 synth shots all tuned to C, so they're super easy to work with. If I go into this folder, we can start, checking these out. I don't know. I might get some use out of that bass right there. So I'm going to go ahead and load that. Now, I just want to remind you again that we can play anything we want on any pad inside of the model samples melodically, right? So hitting the 9 just is the default, but anything other than that, will play, detuned or whatnot. So that's on track 6. And what I want to do is I want to play a melodic part using this Novation SL MK3. Oh, I also want to just stretch a little bit. It's been an hour and a half in this chair. Okay, fantastic. So what I want to do is I just want to set up I need to plug it in to the model samples. That might help. MIDI in. Cool. And now I've got this set to MIDI channel number 6. This is pad number 6. And we're able to go ahead and just play that pad now. And all of the samples, all of the sounds rather, from my Melodics bank work this way. They're all tuned to C, so you just pick the sound you want. You can, if you got a MIDI controller assigned to it, you're just ready to go. Press the C and there's a C. We've got the arpeggio setting on here. It sounds like, yeah. And maybe we'll leave that arpeggio setting on. Maybe we can, program in, not program, but maybe we can just record that in, right? So what we could do, if I press play, yeah, fantastic. And now I've got it MIDI'd into the model samples. This is a sequencer as well. So when I press play over here, I'm sending MIDI clock over here into the model samples. And we can hear the tempo if I turn the metronome on. So let me do that. There we go. Cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and just record that in, shall we? Let's make this a 4-bar pattern over here on the model samples. One, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, and cool. Now I've recorded that little bit of melodic information into the model samples, and if we go ahead and just press play now, we switch cameras back here. Now we've actually got that arpeggio inside of this box here. We can do some neat things with the sound. Maybe make it not quite as long. Put some delay on it maybe. Just a little. Take that delay feedback down so it's not going over itself a whole lot, but just subtle. Take that silly click off there. Sorry about that. Try it with a little more resonance. I'm trying to see what happens if I move the filter with a little more resonance on it. How about more still? Like a lot, right? Let's bring this up to like 50. Do you hear how we're getting a little bit more, life out of this filter now? Let's go ahead and assign an LFO to this cutoff so that's moving just a little tiny bit. Hey, thanks for tuning in, Wall. Hope you enjoy your dinner. And let's go ahead and open up the LFO page here. If we go Function and LFO Setup, I don't think we need to reset it, so that's probably okay. And then if we just click the LFO button, it gets me into the LFO tab. And I can have that playing while I'm adjusting this so I can hear it. I'm going to go ahead and assign that to the cutoff here. hear a little bit of movement start to happen there, but it's happening really quickly, and we want to move it really slowly. So I'm going to go ahead and take the speed of that movement quite a bit down, all the way down, in fact, to just 1. Do you hear how the filter is doing a little bit of movement? Get some more of that resonance on it. Yeah, cool. Some more delay, I think, too. And some reverb. Yeah, let's find a space to put this in. Maybe less reverb still. Alright, do you hear how we're getting a little bit of movement happening on that arpeggio now? We can go ahead and maybe put a kick drum in here, shall we? Bring the volume on that new arp down. Bring the volume on this kick track up a little. And we'll go ahead and scroll for a kick drum, shall we? If we go into my, let's see here, Dirty Tech drums, we can probably find a nice kick that'll go right over that arpeggio. Ooh, that's huge. Let's grab that. Tech kick number 5, right? Let's put that in by hand. Just putting in a nice 4 on the floor pattern here. Yeah. Taking a little bit of the lows off of that kick drum. Yeah, and we're going to bring it down in the mix just a little. Let's go ahead and also adjust that synthesizer sound to be a little shorter, with more delay and more reverb, right? Kind of an underground groove we've got going here, right? Okay, let's see what we can do here. Let's get some high frequency content going. I'm going to select pad 3, hit the load sample button, and go back 3 times to get to the root directory. Actually, I have some top loops in the Dirty Tech drums, and maybe we could use those. Let's see it. If I change, yeah, I have a bunch of these top loops here. So if we change this tempo to 125, when I press tempo, it currently says external because I've got the MIDI plugged in from the external keyboard. So if I unplug that, now we go into the tempo. It'll show our tempo here, and I can set that to 125, so a little bit faster than we had it. But now I can see if I can sneak in some of these loops that I've included in the Dirty Tech Drums folder. Yeah, that still works, I think. Cool. Let's see if maybe one of these loops will sound cool over this. Load sample, back up 3 times, and go into the Dirty Tech Drums. I've got some 125 BPM effects loops here. Yeah, let's go ahead and grab that one by clicking the level data button and backing back out. Now we can start working with that and getting it into the mix. We'll turn it down and we'll go ahead and high pass, yeah, quite a bit on that. Yeah. It's a 2-bar loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to go ahead and go into record mode. I want to make sure we're on the first bar, and I'm going to put a dot in to trigger our new little loop there. Go to bar 3 and do the same thing. Let's see if we can get that in the mix, yeah? Maybe more high pass that out. Because we don't want it to conflict with the kick drum we've already got going. Just want to add some kind of a weird texture, you know, like that techno kind of mystery texture, right? Just gonna bring it back in the mix so it's kind of a background layer, you know what I mean? Hey, thanks, Mike. Sorry, I'm not keeping up on the chat today so much, you guys. The stream seems to be going a lot faster than I was expecting, and I had a lot more ideas of things that I wanted to show you guys in the stream today, actually. But let me see if I can just take one moment and back up to the chat a little and see if I'm missing any questions. And I apologize if I'm missing your questions. If you got an important question, please just ask it again, and I'll try to get to it. We'd like to see what kind of LFO things you can do. Yeah, you can do some neat things. We definitely assigned the LFO finally today to the synthesizer sound over here. But let's go ahead and see what else we could do with that. On maybe like the next sound. Let's get an LFO on that. Maybe like on a hi-hat or something. Let's see if I miss anything. Yeah, the Novations. Oh boy, I actually pre-ordered the new Novation tracks. I'm really excited to start making some sample banks for that because you can store 32 of them on the card now and just load them right up. It looks really fantastic. I can't wait to get a hold of it. Soon, I think. Okay, so let's get back to putting this together, shall we? Let's see if we can't get some high-frequency content coming on this pad here. Let's go back to our root directory. Let me change the cam so you guys can see what I'm doing. Cool. And maybe we'll get like a 909 hat or an 808 hat or something. We'll go into my triple-digit drums directory, which again is like 909, 808, 626 sounds. Maybe see if we can't find like a 909 hat specifically. There we go. Yeah, I like that one. Number 7. Let's tap down on the level data button and grab that. Give a little reverb to that sound to get it in the same acoustic space as the rest of our sounds. Maybe a little delay. There we go. Starting to lock that into the other sounds and kind of pump that, right? Yeah, you're right, Mike. Clap next for sure. Let's go ahead and though, since we were thinking maybe to add an LFO to the next sound, let's go ahead and do that, shall we? Let's put an LFO on this open hat sound and let's make it subtly move the pitch of that just a little bit, shall we? If we go into the LFO menu, I can go over here and I can change the speed of that to maybe a little bit lower, like 4 times speed. By default, it's set to 16th speed, which is pretty quick, actually. And the very first setting here is we can assign the LFO to the pitch of the hi-hat sound here. And then I can just, let's see here, if we press play, and I mute everything but our hi-hat that I want to affect. Do you guys hear now how that's changing pitch? It's very subtle, and I'm going to shut up for a minute so you can hear it. I'm going to make it less dramatic and make it just 0.5. So it's very, very subtle. And I'm also going to go up and I'm going to make the speed of it a 2 instead of a 4 so that it's a lot slower and it's really, really subtle. It's just that tiny little bit of polish that helps us add up to a more interesting beat. Exactly, Mike, adding interest. Yeah, isn't this a charming little boss for stuff? I really, really love working with this, and I want to stress again that when I'm working with it, it always feels much more like I'm using a tool than playing with a toy. I think for an entry-level box, this is a really special box. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and find that clap, shall we, Mike? We're going to go ahead and load that onto the next... Actually, we'll load that onto pad 2, shall we? So we'll select that. We'll play our groove. Let me go into the sample browse menu. And let's go into the triple digit drums. I really like this 626 clap sound. Might not be right for this groove though. So we're going to keep scrolling. There's a 707 clap. That's better. What about the 808 clap? Or maybe the 909 clap instead. There we go, 909. There it is, trust me. We're going to go ahead and back out, turn the volume way up on that. In fact, we're going to not turn the volume way up on that, but rather, we're going to add some distortion to the sound. So I'm going to bring the volume back where it was by default. And I want you to remember that these pads always default to a volume of 60. They actually go all the way up to 127, but they default to 60. And as soon as we roll that number any bit above 60, we're also adding distortion. So we're no longer just increasing the volume, but we're actually adding nasty distortion and drive to the sound. So if you want your sounds to be a little bit harder, you can turn the volume on the sound down just a little bit and then add a little bit of that extra distortion on top and absolutely help sculpt your sounds that extra step. I love this sound quality of that distortion and drive there. Did I miss a clap? Okay, we'll put it in. A little more distortion on that to get it a little louder still. And let's put some reverb on that clap so it's just big old clap, right? Maybe change the pitch of it so we can seat it in the mix a little better. That's pretty nice. Still have an open pad here. So let's see if we can't find something to load onto this pad, shall we? I'm just going into my drum and bass fuel pack. I don't really know why. No reason. Just to see if we can't find something cool. I think I have some chords in here that might work, for instance. Well, we could load chord 4 and kind of dub it out. Yeah, it's a single output. They're on the back here. We've only got headphones and the main out. Then we've got a MIDI in and a MIDI out and a USB. We've got our power here, but that's it. It's just a one out. And this doesn't work with their overbridge software either. So you won't be able to, for instance, run a USB out to this and then run it into your computer and record all of the tracks individually. It just doesn't work that way, unfortunately, because it is their entry-level model. I want to stress again that this is only $300. It's the lowest price point they have to get into the Elektron workflow. And if you're looking for a drum machine or maybe something that you can load your own sounds into and get, that fun workflow where you're locking different samples to different steps and able to create lots of different grooves and go back and forth between them, this is definitely something to look into. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and check out what we started with, some of these patterns here today. This is a dub pattern that I made just the other day to get ready for the stream. Don't forget that we can mute these things in real time by just holding down the function and hitting the pad if we want to mute. So it's really fun for live jamming. Yeah, it's really powerful for the price point. Then I made a variation of that. I really want to show you how I did this still. So let's do that next. But here's a variation on that one. Kind of a different vibe, Yeah, here's another pattern that we started with today. This one's really loud. But also has kind of that arpeggio feeling in it. So you can hear those melodics that you can do using the one-shots. I really want to stress that, you know, if you're looking for a really awesome drum machine, this is a great option. If you're looking for a really awesome entry-level sampler, this is a really good option as well. So depending on what you need, we could load all melodic elements to this if you've already got a drum machine and just use it as a sampler. It's really versatile, and that's definitely one of the things that I like about it, and one of the things that I like about using a sample-based workflow. Let's see here. So here's the first groove that we created today. It's just a quick drum and bass drum beat. No melodic content to it whatsoever. Just some drums. Then we created this a little while ago. Super, super chilled out dub kind of groove. Oh hey, thank you very much for the support, Jimbo. I hope you find a lot of new inspiration in the sounds. That's just it, George. Excuse me, Mike. It absolutely does have the probability per step. So for instance, right, this is our kick drum, and if we want to start editing that, we can just hit the record button. We can choose which page of the pattern we're on, and then we can really do neat stuff with the probability. For instance, like the downbeat is something that everybody expects to be there, right? So if you assign a little tiny bit of probability so that every now and again the first beat doesn't happen, you'll be surprised at what that does to your groove. What we can do here is I'm on the kick drum. Here's the very first downbeat. If I hold that particular step down, I can adjust any of these knobs now, and we're only affecting just this one step. So I can roll this button here, which is the chance button, and I can roll it up a little bit and choose a percentage. I can go all the way up to the top, and I can choose something like 99%. So 99 out of 100, this kick drum is going to hit. But every now and again, especially if you're re-looping the same bar over and over again, every now and again, that kick drum won't hit. And it will be so dramatic and so intense for the listener because they're really expecting it to be there. And then it's not there. I really find this to be magic. But you really want it to be a super high probability, especially on that downbeat for this particular trick. But let me just bring it to like a 50% chance that it will play, and we'll sort of hear what I'm talking about. So right there, the very first time it didn't play. 4, 2, 3, and hear how we skipped the downbeat right there? I'm going to shut up, and we're going to play this a few times. It mostly plays, but every now and again it doesn't play that first downbeat. I really love that particular trick with the chance and probability. I would typically set that a lot higher so that it was really prone to happen almost all of the time. And then when it didn't happen, it would be just that more dramatic. Yes, Christoph, all of the patterns that we're hearing today are only made with my sound banks in here. There's 8 sound banks in total in the bundle. What sort of happened is I kind of got carried away in making banks for this unit because I was having so much fun making the patterns and whatnot. For instance, in my bass music drums pack, you get 250 kick drums, 250 snare drums, and 250 hi-hat samples. That pack also comes with 24 like pattern examples of different beats that I made and stuff like that. So with the pack, you not only get the sound, but you also get like those example patterns that you can remix and work with and all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah, everything we're hearing today is just the packs from my model samples packs. So there's that groove we made. And then the last groove we made, kind of an underground techno. Now, what I really want to show you guys is this really, really neat feature inside of here that works really well if we're not using loops. And why that is that if we're using loops and I start changing the pitch of things, it's going to change the tempo of that loop. So for the most part, there aren't a lot of loops in my banks, just a few here and there to, you know, for fun per se, but not as a main way to work. So if I go back to a pattern, for instance, that doesn't have any loops in it, like this dub number 2 pattern, we can do one of the tricks that the Elektron gear is really famous for doing, which is we can temporarily save the pattern that's playing, and then we can mess it all up, and then we can reload that pattern with just the click of one button. And let me show you exactly what I mean, because that sounds a little strange, right? We can play the pattern, and it, you know, just plays back to, turn the volume on this one down a click so I'm not just yelling. What we're going to do is we're going to hit function, and we're going to hit this little wrench here. Underneath that, it says temp save. So we go function, temp save, and it says that the pattern is saved to our temporary area. Now, I can literally hold down this track button here, which is a control all feature. And if I hit, turn knobs when I'm holding the control all, it will affect all of the sounds at the same time. Now we've saved our pattern temporarily. Function, temp save. Okay, so anything I do, we can get rid of if it sounds terrible. So don't worry about that. So I hold track. Let's mess with the pitch. Do you hear how every single sample is changing pitch, not just that chord sample? Right? I've changed all of those patterns, all of the sounds in pitch, and I can get that back by reloading the temporary save. So this is a really neat thing that you can do for real-time performance. As long as you've done the function and temporary pattern save, now whatever you do is non-destructive because we can get it back by just reloading the pattern. So if I hit track and start bringing the pitch down on all the tracks, we can go dramatic with it, right? Here how everything is detuning now, right? Still going down, all the way down. And we can just reload our pattern again. Function, reload. So, depending on how fast you do stuff like that, you can use that sort of function feature and reload feature as sort of a way to create fills and turnarounds in your beats. And then you reload the pattern on the downbeat. Let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about with that. I'm going to save our pattern temporarily to the temporary pattern save, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Move some stuff and keep moving it. Now resave. And I said resave, but I meant reload. As long as you reload right before that downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, and reload. So there's no time stretching in the sound engine at all, but you can definitely send MIDI out from this or MIDI in to this to get it to sync with any of your other hardware. Let's go ahead and hold that track button down again. In 1, 2, 1, 2, reload. Do that same thing with the filter, but roll it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Rolling that filter down. Reload. We can do something like change the playback direction of all of the samples at one time. We can hold track and hit reverse. In 1, 2, reload. Let's do that again. Reload. Do you hear how I'm reloading it to the beat? 1, 2, 3, 4. Tweak some stuff. 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2. Counting it out. Reload. As long as you're counting in your head, you can tweak stuff up a lot, right? But another use of this pattern, of that feature rather than just using it sort of in a live jam, is you can really use it to resculpt things that you've created. And that's how I got to this second pattern, actually. It's a variation of the first pattern, okay, which I temporarily saved. And then I held down the track button, and I repitched everything. You can go extreme with it. Okay, and now the melodics and everything sounds good, but the kick drum sounds terrible, right? So we could, now go back in and just in real time play the pattern and repitch this kick drum until it doesn't sound terrible. Just pitch that right back down again. That sounds pretty good. And now we've got, yet another version of our pattern. But if we don't like that, we can go back by just reloading it. So this is a neat way, once you've created a pattern, let's say for instance right now we're in pattern 1, a foolproof way to do this so you're not going to ever make any mistakes and screw up your original pattern might be just to copy that pattern over to a new slot to play with. So if I hold pattern and I select 1 and I'm holding pattern in 1 and I click copy, we've now copied that pattern. And I can paste it into maybe pattern 16, right? Go to pattern 16 and click paste, and now it's going to ask me 16 paste. Do I want to paste it? And I just wait, and now it's pasted it there. So I can select pattern 16, A16, and now whatever I do to this pattern, we still have our original pattern. So I can roll this back up where I want it. Maybe I want to go 4 up, right? But the kick drum sounds lousy, so I want to pitch that back down. And now we've got a variation on that other pattern, but it's saved into a different slot. See, it's over here on 16. And you can go back and forth between those variations now. And it will just change on the downbeat. So we'll go pattern. Then I'm going to select pattern 16. So here we're getting that variation in the melodics now. So we've been going for just about 2 hours today. I know I've probably missed quite a bit of content in the chat, and I apologize for that. I'm going to take a moment and see if there's anything that I need to address. And please, if you have any more questions of any kind, whether they be about the model samples or just samples or music production in general, now would be a great time as we're getting nearer to wrapping up the stream. It's been about 2 hours today. I really appreciate all of you tuning in with me on these Sunday streams. We've just been having a lot of fun lately and doing like a different box every week, kind of doing a little bit of masterclass, a little bit of deep dive, just exploring some gear and having a lot of fun. Does the model have a sound lock? I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I'm guessing it might mean that when I do the all tracks tweak feature, that track would not change. And I do not believe it has that function. But don't quote me on that, because maybe somewhere deep in the manual there is, and I just don't know it. But I don't think there's a lock function. One of the things that's cool about these boxes, guys, is that they're just so immediate to play with. You just get in here and literally just start messing with. It's really hands-on because there's not a lot of menu diving, which hopefully you've seen, which is really the opposite workflow as some of the boxes that we've been working with over the last couple of weeks, like the Akai MPC Live and the Akai Force. And I think some of the biggest differences in stuff like that is this is a really fun and creative box that allows you to do stuff that a lot of other boxes don't do. These parameter lockings and these probabilities and all sorts of customizations with changing all of the tracks at one time. Whereas you can't really do those things with the Akai boxes. They don't have probability at all. But you know, you're missing things in a box like this, production-wise. There's no compression at all. There's no master compressor in this. For instance, we have a master compressor in the Digitact, which is really handy for kind of gluing your tracks together. I just want to stress again that overbridge, it does not work with this, so you can't get audio out of USB and record all of the tracks individually. This is an entry-level piece of gear, and you know, for the price, I think this is one of the best entry-level pieces of gear that you can hope to own. And I'm going to say it again, because working with it, to me, feels a lot more like working with a tool and not like playing with a toy. And that's really important for an entry-level piece of gear, I think. Yeah, sample lock as in each can have multiple samples per track. Absolutely, it definitely does that, and we've been doing that this stream. So if you're just tuning in now, definitely when the stream is over, maybe check out the first part of the stream because we're doing that. But we'll go ahead and do that now as well. Let's create like a complicated hi-hat pattern because this is one of the ways that I really like to start my beats. I find that when we take that little bit of extra time on each individual track, you can really get some polished sounding stuff out of a box like this. Let me show you what I'm talking about specifically. We've got a new pattern here. Okay, fantastic. I'm just going to use their default hi-hat to start us off with, and I'm just going to put this on the 4s, right? Okay, I'm going to turn the volume up quite a bit so you guys can hear this at home, I think. Yeah, and we worked with that stuff in the last couple of weeks, Mike, the ability to get the random sample trigger playback on the pads and the Akais, and I really like that as well. But it's not even remotely the same thing as probability. It's just another way to work with some cool randomization, which I'm really about. You know, that's the thing is I want to say at the end of the day, I'm a hybrid producer. You know, I don't claim any one workflow as this is my workflow and this is how I work and this is how you should work and that's the way to do it. I don't really work that way. I just like, you know, playing with the gear. I've been at this daily since 1994 and I work in Ableton. I work with whatever gear. I change the gear out every week, you know, pretty much, those of you who watch my channel. And I don't necessarily think that there's only one way to do things. I think the biggest thing to think about with gear choice and what you're actually working with is what your end goal is with that music. If your end goal is, you know, YouTube and live jams, something like this is absolutely a #1 choice for sure. Okay, let's see here. Let's write a hi-hat part, shall we? So we've got some, you know, the basic default hi-hat sound in here, but let's add some more stuff in here. Let's add some sample locking like Mike was asking about. We're going to go ahead and click on another step here, and I'm going to hold that step down now, and I'm going to click on the sample button to load a sample, and we're just going to go into the bass music drums pack. We're going to go into the hi-hats folder, which again has 250 hi-hat samples in it. Let's choose hi-hat number 60, shall we? And I'll click the level data button. It's going to add that to this step only, right? And let's go ahead and do the same kind of thing over here. I'm going to hold this step down and let's choose a different hi-hat arbitrarily, right? How about a 178, yeah? It's a little loud though now. So as long as I'm in sample mode, got my, you know, record button up, I can see the individual steps that are lit up here. And I can hold this pad and just turn the volume down. Oops. Rather, I'll do it over here instead of the velocity. We'll turn the volume down on this hit only. Maybe bring the decay on this one back as well so it's a little bit tighter. Cool. And let's say that I really like the way that sounds, right? We can hold that step and copy it. And then I can touch any other step I want and paste that right in there. Let's go ahead and maybe take another step arbitrarily, right? And load a different sample onto that step. If I go into the bass music drums folder and the hats folder, I'm going to scroll all the way up to hat number 250, right? Actually, there's open hats at the end. So maybe we'll grab one of those then. We'll grab an open hat and put it here. Here's open hat number 10. Cool. And if I hold that one step down, we could change the pitch on that hi-hat. Maybe get it up a little bit to match the other sounds a little better. Yeah. Maybe a little high pass on that one step alone. We can put these hats through some reverb and some delay to get a little bit of extra rhythm on these hats. Cool. And let's lock a few more samples onto these. We have some empty steps here that don't have any samples on them. So if I click step 2 and I hold it down, we can maybe roll over here to hi-hat number, I don't know, 203. I can click that. Now we've locked just that hi-hat to that step only. Can move this to K and maybe tighten that up quite a bit. Yeah. Let's low pass filter just that one hi-hat, right? And let's see here. We can also, rather than do a global swing where you swing everything, you can just move one note or a few notes off the grid if you want. We can hold that step, touch this swing knob over here, and maybe just move that off the grid by 1/192nd. Then I could maybe copy that and arbitrarily paste that into a few more steps here. There's still some empty steps. Let's go ahead and touch that. And let's load hi-hat number 155 onto that step. Yeah, cool. It's pretty loud, so we're going to go ahead and bring the volume on that one step down and the decay on that sound down as well. We'll tighten it up. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and we'll paste that into all of the other open slots here. So now we've got kind of a different sounding hi-hat pattern where there's more than one sample playing on, through the measure on the one track alone. And this is called, parameter locking or sample locking, and it's a really awesome feature. We can take the hi-hat pattern even one step further and have it get a little bit more variation by assigning some probability on whether these steps will hit every time or not. So, for instance, if I hit a step and I turn the chance knob, I can maybe take this to 50%, and I can maybe, skip a note and take the next one and change the probability to 50% on, say, like every, hold on. Let me do some copying and pasting here. I screwed up a little. There we go. Bring that chance to 50%. And what this is going to do is it's going to make some of these notes not play every time. So our pattern will just be that much more varied as well. I'm taking every other note in the pattern and changing it to 50% chance that it will trigger or not. Almost got them all here. And the last one, we'll change that to 50 as well. So do you guys hear now how this hi-hat pattern is really doing a lot of, evolving and sort of moving? What I want actually is to turn that into a 4-bar pattern. And let's erase what I just put in and do it again, but on 4 bars now. So I'll go back into quantized recording mode. I need to get my click back on so that I can hear the downbeat. 2, 2, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4. And let's work the kick now. Whoops. Get that extra snare out that I put in by accident. These are just the default samples that were on the kit, but let's put a snare on this pad from my bass music drums pack, shall we? Cool. I'm going to go ahead and actually turn that click off now that we've got everything kind of in beat here. Back 3 and into the bass music drums folder. Again, there's 250 kick drums in this pack, 250 snare drums, and 250 hi-hats. So no matter what kind of music you're into, you're definitely going to find the sounds that you need. That's nice. We're going to go grab that snare number 69. Kind of a Jack U, Diplo, Skrillex kind of a snare here. We could maybe load a melodic sound onto pad 6 here, right? We could go back 3 clicks to get into the root directory of our folders. Maybe we can go into the melodics folder and check out some of these bass samples that I have here. 50 basses, all tuned to C. Let's see here, actually, what we can do. Oops, wrong cam. Here we go. Ooh, hold the phone. Let me just see if I can't tap something in here, rather. I was gonna try to play something in, but I think we can maybe just tap it. Let's see here. Oh, it was already recording? No, I don't want to. I was just trying to practice there. So we're gonna go function clear. Yeah, if I do play it in though, it will be in key. So let's do that. What tempo are we at here? 120? Cool. So you can definitely plug any MIDI controller of your choice. Oh, whoops, I want to change the tempo to our tempo is what I want to do. Fantastic. Cool, let's just play something in. 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. Who knows what's gonna happen? Cool, a little bass line there. And what let's do then, maybe we'll bring the volume on that bass down just a touch. Alright. Hey, what's happening, Martin? Thanks for tuning in. That is a great question, Balab. How hard am I pushing the pads? He says he bought his used, and I feel like I have to put some real Yes, I agree with what you are saying, 100%. I think you do have to really whack on these pads. What I've done to compensate for that is I've gone into the pad menu and set the velocity all to 127 so that they're not velocity sensitive anymore, but I don't have to whack on them either. I'm just barely touching them now, and we only just get that one velocity level though. But yeah, I find that really helps for just, because you can always go in after you programmed something and lower the volume of some of those individual beats if you want to. Are there some Simmons toms in the pack? There aren't any specific Simmons toms. I think there are some toms in here, like a few from the Roland 808 series. And there might be a couple in the drum and bass pack, but there aren't any Simmons specifically, sorry. Let's see here. And let's not forget, we can do that track all stuff. So if I temporarily save the pattern, we could do like, change the pitch of everything, right? In fact, wait a minute. That's kind of sexy, right? I kind of like that. Maybe we leave it there. Maybe we just bring that kick drum up now. Yeah, I really like the roundness on that. In fact, I want to show you guys again this distortion feature. So if I bring the volume on that kick drum down, again, the pads default to volume 60. And whenever we go above 60, we're now adding volume, and more importantly, we're adding distortion. So if I take this kick drum, do you hear how hard that's getting right there? And you can just adjust the volume as needed. And God, that's hard, right? kind of conflicts with the tonality of our bass when it's that high, but man, that's cool. All right, we'll bring it down. All right, that's kind of cool. Very funky, right? That's fun. Thanks, Connor. So let's say we wanted to go ahead and, save this. We'll just go back into the menu, make sure that we're in the project, and then we're just going to save the project that we've got going here. We could relabel it if we needed to, but we don't. And then we've got to save. Okay, fantastic. Let's see here. I'm going to just see if there's any more questions that I'm missing. Yeah, the volume and distortion. Again, it's going to default to 60. So whenever you go above 60, you're now adding distortion and volume. So to compensate when it gets too loud, if you want to make it more distorted, just bring your volume on the individual pad down and then keep turning that distortion up. Before we go, let me just play you guys just some of these drum patterns from my bass music drums pack. There's 24 patterns that this comes with. And like just drum beats and stuff to get your inspiration flowing and just kind of show some of what these beats can do and what they sound like. So they sound a bit like this. Whoops. Actually, if we take the MIDI out, then it will rely on its own clock information and play quite a bit faster, for instance. So I created quite a few patterns here. Whoops, there's something wrong with that pattern. I created quite a few patterns here to give examples, of what you can do with these drums. Or maybe if the patterns inspire you, you work with that pattern. There's everything in here from, big, huge halftime thumpers like this. Just stuff like this. Kind of like halftime aggressive trap beats here. Anything that you might hear in, bass music. Some funky stuff here. Everything from big fat drums to thin tight drums with 250 kicks, 250 snares, all that stuff. I wanted to make sure that all the drum sounds for tons and tons of different genres would be covered there. Let's see here. Let me just play a couple more of these patterns. So you definitely can create like music and not just drum beats with a box like this, but you are limited to those 6 tracks. Whereas on the Digitact, you've got 8 tracks, and you can also just sample and record your own sounds right into it. The Digitact also works with overbridge so that you can record your stuff multi-tracked out of USB into something like Ableton, whereas you don't get that with the entry-level model samples. But I really think personally, as far as the entry-level gear that I have played with in this room over the past couple years, this is quite possibly the best piece of entry-level gear that I've worked with. I really like their model samples groovebox as well, which I have, but you can't load your own sounds into that. It is a really nice companion piece to the model samples here, which you can load your own sounds into, however. And, if you think about it, a Digitact still retails for $700, and these retail for $300. So you could get a model samples and a model cycles and have kind of like FM synthesis groovebox and a sample-based groovebox side by side for still less than the cost of the Digitact, The Digitact is an amazing box, though. I mean, it is my favorite piece of gear in here. I really do love being able to sample directly into it rather than having to just load all of the sounds into it. But it is what it is. And at the end of the day, if you're able to play with an entry-level piece of gear and have a lot of fun with it, then that really speaks volumes. Yeah, sample lock makes the limits not so bad. I really agree with that. Absolutely. Okay, well, we've been going for almost 2 hours. It's about 2 hours and 22 minutes. I'm going to hang out for just a couple more minutes and let you guys say goodbye to each other in the chat. And again, I really appreciate everyone tuning in and hanging out with me on these Sunday live streams. I'm not exactly sure what we'll be doing next Sunday at 10 a.m., but if you like synthesis and you're a synth nerd like me, be sure and subscribe because we'll be back next Sunday doing something fun. I guess we'll play out with just a couple more of these beats here. That's fat. Oh, a lot of different variety you can do. I've got a lot of stuff in here that's like really swung and funky, whereas other things are more straight to the tempo. But you can hear just how fat these beats get and how fat these drums are in these packs, you guys. A lot of different variety in the sounds. Hey, thanks Martin. Thanks Jimbo. Thanks BK. Really appreciate that, you guys. Thanks Balab. Thanks David. Hey, thanks Mike. Thanks Sean. Thanks Connor. I really appreciate everyone tuning in for these streams. All right, one more. All right, cool. Until next time, thanks for watching.